I'm joined today by one of Scotland's leading SEOs. He leads a large and growing team for the agency Equator. Welcome, Andrew Steele.
Hi David, how you doing?
I'm very good, thank you. You're wondering where I was going to go with the introduction. Fairly short and sweet.
Yeah, I was expecting a wee jingle or something there. I was used to the jingles of the Week in Organic stuff.
So. Okay, well, we have to cover again the other show this Week in Organic, just because you enjoy them. Yeah,
always a pleasure.
Well, so you're like head of SEO in terms of job title at the moment in 2016.
Yep.
If you were doing a similar kind of role in 4 years' time, long way to look ahead into the future, do you reckon it's still going to be called head of SEO or maybe something else?
Ooh, good question. I think potentially something else, because I think search in general is changing, quite a lot in terms of what we do. But I think SEO will still exist as a channel and a role basically. But in terms of the role titling as head of SEO alone, I couldn't say with any certainty, because I think, and it's obviously something that we've discussed before, that SEO does continue to kind of mushroom out into so many other areas and disciplines as well, that whether it stays as specifically SEO as a role title itself, it's harder to say.
So, I mean, one thing that I've seen you mention in your own blog is that you believe that user experience is going to be something to expand in significance in 2016. Is that going to be even more important looking forward into 2020, do you think?
I think so, definitely. I think, if you look at search engines and in particular, I guess Google, because it's the one we all tend to mean or reference when we talk about search in general, certainly in the UK anyway. I think if you look at what they're doing at the moment, they're clearly trying to look at other ways to start being able to understand what users want from search results that doesn't necessarily make it so reliant on links as the primary ranking factor. And I know obviously they came out the other week and confirmed, as we all kind of knew anyway, that links are still currently the primary ranking factor. But I think they're not the best measure in terms of what people actually want from a website. If anything, they're probably one of the poorer ones, whereas Google have access to all kinds of kind of clickstream data and interaction data, and they can see if someone clicks on this search result for this query, how long is it before they bounce back to the same set of search results, if they do at all, and if they do, what do they do from there? That all those kind of measures would seem to be the kind of thing that they're progressing towards being able to better understand and use to kind of optimize their own results and how they organize them. And I think even things like RankBrain as well, and using artificial intelligence gives them great potential to be able to kind of combine a lot of these different data sets in a much more kind of intelligent and intuitive way than perhaps they would have been able to in the past, just because they're already dealing with a huge volume of data anyway. But when you're trying to make results that are specific to such a broad range of queries that will be going on out there, and people's particular intents and how well they're able to kind of formulate that intent into a query, there's so many things that user experience metrics definitely offer a better solution, I think, than links for that.
But I mean, it's as intriguing as you say that Google have said that links are still essentially the most important factor at the moment.
Yeah.
And if we would have been having a conversation, say 5 years ago, say back in 2011, do you think that looking forward, you would have thought that links would have been still so quite important as they are now? Yeah,
good question. I think it's obviously hard to look back and put myself in that position without the benefit of hindsight now. But I think, at that time, research was, a lot of the conversation was at the time that I can recall anyway, was around how, content was becoming more important, and the quality of links and, the kind of relevancy of them were things that were becoming more important, and that we know, has borne true and is more important. I think, there's always the kind of classic statement of is SEO dead, and what people tend to mean by that is, is link building dead and link value dead. It's not, obviously, the fact that they came out and confirmed that pretty much the other week. Will it be dead in another 4 years' time? I don't think so, but I just don't think that links will be the same kind of number one ranking factor, or number one or number two ranking factor that they are at the moment in 4 years' time, because of things like user experience metrics allow them to provide a better experience. Because at the end of the day, Google's all about, and has always been about, providing the best experience of a search engine for its users, and that's how they became the dominant search engine in the first place. Was they built a ranking algorithm that better than anyone else satisfied what people's queries were with the kind of results they were looking for. And I think that user experience metrics and being able to involve those in a much more sophisticated way in determining the results will help them continue to do that again. And that's hugely important to Google, because they only care about providing their users a good experience of Google, because it's what helps them sell advertising space in its simplest sense. So yeah, I think links probably still will be something we look at, but might be in a bit of a different way, because to build user experience metrics, you need to be getting people back to your website. And again, it's the kind of classic content marketing. The links is obviously a part of that, because it helps people discover content and ultimately build their own user experience, rather than just looking at user experience purely as people coming into your site from Google search results. I think there'll be potentially a much broader pool of data that will be utilised in that.
Well, it looks like Google have struggled to rely on other metrics with any significant degree of confidence. So that's why they retained links as being such a prominent factor in their algorithm. So if they were to move to relying on user experience metrics, which metrics specifically do you think will become more important over the next few years?
I think a couple of ones that I mentioned at the start there are certainly likely to become increasingly more important. So things like bounce back to search, because you could probably use that as a good measure across most verticals anyway, that if someone clicks on the number one result and then they don't find their answer within the first, let's say, 10 seconds or 10, 15 seconds, or whatever, looking at the site, and they bounce back to the same search results and then click on another result further down the page of results, then that's probably a good signal if it happens in enough volume and there's enough trend there, that the first result maybe wasn't the right result then for that query, so they can start to kind of move it down and look at the placement of it. So I think that would be one that it wouldn't actually surprise me if it's already a part that's played within search results, but I could expect it potentially to become more common. I think hand in hand with that would be looking at, well, when people come back to search results, do they search again for a different query type? Because there will be some answers that people will be looking for ultimately from their queries that probably will be answered within 15 seconds on a page, and then there's no reason to really continue to look any further on a site. But again, there's always the argument that, well, as a site owner yourself, what do you want to do with that person once you've got them on your site? So, even if the query that they were looking for is answered in 15 seconds, how quickly can you then capitalize on that to engage them in some other way of your site? But, that's a kind of separate challenge. But I think that kind of dwell time metric almost has a value already, and probably an increasing value. Over and above that, I think you could start looking at any of the kind of classic metrics that probably all play a part, but their importance is maybe a bit lesser. So things like the number of pages deep into a site that people go to, because again, I think you would have to start looking at that on a query type by type basis, and probably a vertical by vertical basis as well, because again, there'll be some things like if you want to know the score in the football, for example, you'd go on to the first result and find the current score, and then you'd probably bounce away from search and not have any real reason to go any further on that site. So those kind of metrics would be the ones, certainly to me at the moment, that would seem to stand out. And again, in terms of looking beyond just the kind of metrics that you would acquire from search result interaction with people in that way, I think it will be kind of visitor volumes in general across all channels, because I suspect that part of the user experience kind of thing would be pulling in a lot more kind of metrics from social and social media interaction, because they are kind of, without a doubt, growing areas of marketing continuing to become a bit more sophisticated than they had been in their earlier days when Google originally had, its relationship and partnership with Twitter that went for a while and is now back on. So I'd imagine the kind of interaction and engagement metrics from there might feed a bit more of a kind of dynamic result set, a bit like the kind of classic query deserves freshness kind of stuff, where if a site or a particular topic or whatever is becoming a trend on Twitter, for example, that maybe it gets a temporary rankings boost for the terms it's related to, in a kind of broader sense than it does at the moment. Those would be the kind of ones that...
You talk about social there quite a bit. Can you see more social results being integrated as part of Google search over the next few years?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I know that even within the last couple of months or so, a number of the kind of queries that we've been looking at for clients have had results pages that continue to become, more and more information being presented on the results page themselves, in terms of, Twitter feeds and related topics being pulled through in results, and those kind of things would seem more likely to. But again, I guess it just depends on how the social platforms that Google look to kind of partner up with for this kind of data want to be featured as well, and whether they want to give Google that access. Because I think a big concern for them would have to be, well, if Google starts pulling all of this information through, then does it reduce the likelihood that you would need to be going on to Twitter or checking Twitter if you can just search in Google and get a better experience of finding whatever it was you're wanting to see someone talking about. So it takes away that kind of one of the elements of Twitter almost, in terms of that kind of information discovery, it's become a big thing for it, and a number of other social platforms as well.
So when you talk about search engines, it seems that you just use the word Google. Do you think that'll be the case in a few years' time? Can you see other search engines becoming more prominent in the future?
I'd love to say I could see some really putting up a challenge, but I think Google have hit almost a monopoly point where, in the early days of search engines, it was a lot more possible because there was no one that had just, the sheer resource and wealth behind them that Google have now, and, their ability to feed data from so many sources. So they've got, Chrome as a browser, they've got Android as a mobile platform device that can feed data that, they can utilize. Sure, Bing, you could argue, have some of those same elements to them, but they don't even really seem to be trying to compete as much now. That would just lead me to suspect that, as the next biggest challenger in kind of Western search engines, at least, that they're really going to put up much of a challenge. And beyond them, I wouldn't have thought there's a whole lot there. So unless there was a new search engine to come along, which would seem unlikely again, just because I can only imagine the kind of innovation you would have to come up with to really challenge Google on that front now.
There are perhaps more specialist search engines now. People obviously go to Amazon if they're looking to purchase a physical product. People go to iTunes to search for a lot of music or podcasts. And also you've got Cortana and default search facilities within devices now. Perhaps over the long term, that could be more of a competitor. Is that likely, do you think?
Yeah, I suppose in terms of, I guess, a bit the kind of fragmenting or fracturing of search, and, for particular intents or types of search, there could be a challenge from that, certainly, because I think, mobile and, applications and the kind of better experience almost that you can get through applications is probably a challenge that's a concern to Google right now. And, you can see probably a lot of that in the fact that they have become so mobile focused of late. But I couldn't, in terms of the scale, I guess, of search that they would want, I can't really see a challenger to Google on that front. But yeah, definitely, it could be that they start to lose, I guess, dominance or ownership, if you like, of particular spaces or verticals or intents and types of search to some of these kind of challengers around the fringe as well. But they are obviously, like I said, putting a lot of focus on mobile and how they can involve themselves more in that, and I guess continue to kind of control that space a bit more too.
Have you talked to any clients about optimizing app content at all? Is that the kind of thing that will follow under an SEO's remit in the future?
We have, in a number of cases, and I think you're absolutely right. It could be something that becomes, again, a part of SEO as a role increasing down the line, just because, again, it's about that assisting discovery really of content, and we are seeing that, you know, Google made strides in terms of indexing app content, and deepening into app content and things like that over the past year or so. That I think ultimately anything where you're talking about feeding content and feeding your presence into search engines probably falls within the remit of an SEO and the role as well. And it's whether that, you know, whether as a discipline SEO continues to become more fragmented and specialist in that nature, because, you know, it is mushrooming into so many disciplines that you can't always be jack of all trades, master of none sort of thing. That I don't see why it wouldn't be.
And can you see websites themselves changing significantly over the next few years? Because probably in the last 3 or 4 years, we've had a significant move towards mobile, a lot more responsive design, and consideration for obviously user experience in relation to whatever device that user happens to be on. Can you see the way that we consume the web changing significantly? And if so, you know, will that adjust the way that we have to design websites?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in terms of how significantly, I don't know on that, because I mean, even if you think back to the changes to websites over the previous 4 years, so if we go back to 2012, for example, I don't know that they're massively different over that time. And I think one of the barriers to that tends to be that, you know, for significant advancement in general across the web to take place takes time with web development, because it's ultimately, you know, with clients anyway, they tend to be taken on as projects where you're looking to build something that lasts for a couple of years at least before you're rebuilding it again. So I think that kind of thing probably slows over 4 years how much that will change. But I think there's definitely been, you know, a number of advancements even within the last sort of 2-3 years in terms of things like HTML5 and how much more is being done with that in terms of websites and experiences there. And, you know, there's a number of kind of changes that Google have made in terms of how they're able to understand, you know, sites that are built with kind of JavaScript based coding that allows you to do so much more kind of sophisticated interaction experience. And then I think even if you look at why we consume websites, that will probably continue to change a bit, because, you know, Google are pulling information more and more into search results that will change what people actually then go through to websites for. So websites might become the place that you're only really going for more kind of deeper value added content over and above on a topic that you wouldn't really expect to be pulled through in search. But that kind of high level information that, you know, if you go back 4 years was probably quite common to pull a lot of traffic through from, that kind of stuff's probably going to be featured either in, you know, search results themselves, or through kind of social platforms potentially, or through app experiences as well, whereas websites might just be the place you go to do that kind of deeper, more substantial reading and learning and kind of knowledge-based type stuff.
And what about Google's SERP itself? Can you see that changing significantly? Because it has changed a bit over the last few months.
Yeah.
Are we likely to see any video, any images? And what would your thoughts be on the future of the integration of the paid and search and organic results? Are you still confident that we can drive a significant volume of traffic from the organic results in the future?
I think increasingly, and it's something that we've seen ourselves, that you have to be taking an integrated approach to pretty much any marketing activity, but particularly search. And, you know, the changes recently in a lot of the spaces that we operate and excel in have been significant to that. So particularly like the hotels and travel space, for example. So over the last year or so, Google have introduced a number of changes there in terms of they've got their hotel price ads kind of paid platform that pulls through now in knowledge graph type results, where even if you're doing a search for a particular brand of hotel, it will pull through there. And that is a challenge because it allows the classic kind of competitors to hotels of the online travel agents, or OTAs as I typically refer to be visibly competing in your brand search space as a result of these changes to the search layout. And then again, you know, the recent change in terms of removing the right-hand side and adding an extra result above organic results has pushed organic further down the page on that, you know, there's challenges from that. But for all these challenges being to organic as well, it creates challenges to paid and, you know, PPC as a channel, because, you know, it increases bid prices for those positions. So it means you have to either be a bit more tactical with your budget, or you know, spreading it less, and also, again, if there's the other challenges like hotel price ads, or Google continually kind of pushing in advertising into spaces like mortgages and things like that, and certainly in the States, and results there. And I've seen one today about they're starting to push even things like fuel prices and things like that into local results. That an integrated approach is absolute paramount to be doing at the moment. But whether the results continue to change, absolutely, I would expect that they'll continue to pull more and more educated information through there, because big parts of how Hummingbird works was to be able to go out and understand intent of queries and align that to finding data in a much more kind of structured form across the web, even where people aren't using structured data to mark it up. So if you put in a query now, the result it will pull through won't bold the keywords that were part of your query. It will bold the answer, because it can understand that this is the answer to this question I'm being asked. And I think those kind of developments will just continue to take place. I think you said an interesting one yourself there in terms of will video be pulled through into search results? That one you could argue maybe a bit contentious, because then they're competing with their own other highly successful search engine of YouTube, but maybe it's a case that YouTube starts to be integrated more into search results, and we see almost a bit more of a social element in search results as well, if you can see comments and things like that, because you can always already see review data in the form of kind of stars and snippets there. So yeah, absolutely, I would expect it to change, and the nature of that change, it's hard to predict, obviously, but I'd say a simple answer, I guess, is that there will be more information almost definitely pulled through into results.
It seems like they want to move in a direction where they're offering an answer service as opposed to a search service, and an answer service based upon knowledge that they know about the person, so a very personalized one based upon their search history and what they know about the person, based upon obviously them being logged into different Google services as well. But you talk about integrated marketing there as well, paid marketing and other forms of marketing as well. Is it reasonable in the future to expect an SEO to have reasonable knowledge of all of these areas, or do you think it'll fall more on the responsibility of a head of digital in general to actually know about all these areas and then manage an SEO, and then an SEO still to be very focused on the technical aspects of that job?
I think you have to know about them at least at high level to be able to know how your role integrates in, or where the opportunities to integrate with them are. So, in our team here at Equator, for example, we do a lot of crossover learning sessions to ensure that everyone across the whole of my team and the SEO team knows and understands the other channels, and they work together collaboratively for all our clients, where we do multiple channels for them, because you need to know how can we benefit from the insights that we can get from paid search, for example, or from how does SEO performance benefit from display activity, in terms of it can help brand search volumes, and how do we go about generating more of that to generate a greater volume of traffic there, and again potentially generate more user interaction with our clients' sites off of the back of these other channels as well. So I think the people who will be kind of leaders of those type of teams definitely need to have a good understanding across all the channels. And I think even at a base level, if you're just an SEO, you would need to have an understanding of where are what are the opportunities that you can tie in with those channels, which probably requires a base level knowledge at least.
Okay, so quite a few interesting thoughts there in the future of SEO, but just about time to conclude, I reckon. So just as a final question, what do businesses need to be doing now that will still be a valid strategy in 2020?
I think from an SEO perspective, definitely looking at the content that you create and how that aligns with your audience for a start, and the needs of your audience as well, and then how you promote that aligns with those things as well. So promoting it to other places where your audience actually are, because I think a lot of kind of issues with link building in the past in particular has been that it'll just be opportunities looking at like the perceived strength of a site rather than aligning it to the audience. I think other things will be using structured data markup and trying to take advantage where possible of the information that is continually being pulled into search results, so that it's not just that you're losing something by losing some of the answer, but that you're providing an answer that also then has some information in it, ideally, that kind of leads people into the next step of their search, that hopefully pulls them through to your site. Because one of the good things there at the moment anyway that Google are doing is that they are featuring the sites that they're pulling a lot of these answers from into. And then a final one, I guess, touches on what we were just talking about there in terms of ensuring that you are looking at your marketing activity in a joined up way, and looking at integration and how you tie things together overall for overall benefit, rather than looking at things in a kind of siloed channel by channel and measuring performance by each individual channel, because at the end of the day it's about driving more customers for most businesses. So integration is definitely the thing that I don't think will go anywhere anytime soon.
Okay, I think that's probably the most often used word, integration. So it sounds to be the direction to go in. So wonderful thoughts there. Thanks for coming on. And how can people get hold of you, Andrew?
You can get hold of me either through the Equator website, which is eqtr.com, or on Twitter at Andrew J. Steele, or through LinkedIn, Andrew Steele.
Great stuff. Okay, thanks again, Andrew.
Okay. Thanks, David.